Yep, we're good. All right, so how did we... The camera's all wrong again. I tried. Okay. So anyway, like I was saying, Facebook is only going to keep things for 30 days. If you're looking for something longer than that or older than that, you'll have to go to the YouTube page, which I will link in the comments. Because they don't like when you just do a post with taking people away from Facebook. They don't like it. So we'll pretend to make them happy anyway. I don't know what that was. All right, so hello over there on YouTube, hello on Facebook, and we'll get started. I don't really have a theme or a specific task. That's not really what I want. A specific focus today. Just a little bit of an overall get your yoga on, happy place kind of practice. But remember that you can do whatever it is you need to do, right? So if I'm doing a pose that I don't really want that, I want something else, then go there. You're not distracting anyone else like you would in a yoga class sometimes. I would have people sit in front of the class and then just do their own thing. It's very weird. But, but you don't have to worry about that. You can totally do it here. So if that's what you need, always. And remember not to worry too much about what the pose looks like, right? Or if you can do all of the add-ons in a certain pose. It's not about that, right? Moving your body, keeping your mind here as you do that is really the important part. Right? So everything else is just extra. And sometimes we can do those things and sometimes we can't. And it's never gonna matter. So let's go ahead and come standing at the top of the mat. Find your feet underneath your hip bones. Spread your toes really wide and widen the foundation of the four corners of the feet. Pressing down into the floor, trying not to grip your toes. Lifting the kneecaps up, engaging the quads. A little tuck of the tailbone down, keeping the lower back nice and long. You don't want to shove your pelvis forward, right? But we don't want to pinch that lower back either. Extend through the crown of the head toward the ceiling. Relax your shoulders and kind of check where your hands meet your thighs, right? Are they more in front? Or are they more to the side? Ideally, they're to the side, right? But we work in that direction. If it doesn't happen today, don't think. And in mountain pose here, if you like, you can turn your palms forward. That will help pull your shoulders back a little, maybe. Closing your eyes. Imagine moving the bottom tips of your ears back until you feel the weight of your head over your shoulders. And then just take a moment. Check in. How do you feel? How are you breathing? You don't have to pay attention to those things to make it happen. Right? But it's nice to check in. Remember to breathe through the nose. Even when poses get difficult, we want to be able to breathe through the nose. And just gradually allow the breath to expand. If you want to use that Ujjayi breath, making it noisy in the back of your throat, feel free to go there. Making the breath just beyond comfortable. So it's enough work that you have to pay attention to it. And we're kind of stretching the limitations of our lungs, right? Or what are our limitations today, anyway. And then stay connected to that. As we inhale, we're going to take the arms and stretch into the ceiling. And then exhale, bring them back down. Again, like that. Just letting the arms reflect the breath in. No. We'll do that once more. Coming back to the top. Exhale, just the right hand back toward the floor. Keep the shoulders set and give yourself a little tip over to the right. So you don't want to bring this left ear to the shoulder or the left shoulder to the ear. Just keep it down. You can lean on the outside of the leg a little bit, but try not to let your hips shift, staying centered and even. Take another big breath. Inhale, come to the middle. And then switch. Take the left hand down and tip to the left. Even in the feet. And with the next inhale, bring it back up to the top. Releasing the arms. Inhale, lift the arms back up. Releasing the right hand toward the floor, step your right foot over the left. Right? And then try to ground the four corners of the right foot as well as you tip back over to the right. If the balance is tricky, look down at the floor. If it's like, well, I don't even feel anything, close your eyes. You'll feel it. Or maybe just look up. Inhaling as we make our way back up. Release your feet. Take the left hand down and step the left foot over as you tip over to the left. Take your time with it. Big full breaths. Inhaling as we lift back to center. Releasing the hands and those feet. Taking the hands to the thighs. Leaning as much as you need to lean, of course, as always. Exhale, bring yourself over into a half fold kind of place. Bending through the knees, inhale, roll your spine back up. And then exhale, forward again. So with the breath, getting as round as you can on the way up and keeping the back flat on the way down. Flat-ish. Let's take one more like that. And then come on over into that half fold hold this time. And we're going to work the bottom half of the fold. So your hamstrings might be done, right? You're as deep into a fold as you can be. If you're not, we're going to slowly move a little deeper. You can lean on the thighs to support as much as you need. Keep the belly working for you. Okay. As you exhale, see if you can move into that fold a little bit deeper. Even if it's tiny, tiny little bit. And then inhale back and release the stretch. Exhale forward again. See if you can go a little bit deeper. So we're coming in and out like that. Here we want to keep the back flat-ish. And eventually you'll find where the hamstrings have had enough. And then you just can hold there, or you can continue to move in and out. Take just a couple more breaths working into the fold. And then hold what you got. And just gonna see how you feel. The hands can stay up on the thighs, they can move to the shins, they can touch the floor as long as the shoulders don't sag. Remember, the fold comes from the hip joint, not the back or the knees, right? Bending. So from our fold, let's go just ahead and step back into an all fours position. So hands and knees. Remember to spread the fingers nice and wide. Feel even on the four corners of the hands. And if you're feeling wrist pain, you can either take your hands a little bit forward of that, Or you can use, they have these little triangle looking things that lift the heel of your hand up a little bit. And you can try those things if it's necessary. So from here, we're going to take the right hand, weave it underneath, coming down to the elbow. And the elbow goes in the middle of the mat, right underneath your shoulders-ish. You can stay here, or you can continue to reach to the left and drop the shoulder to the floor. But the same idea, the shoulder is even in the middle of the mat, not too far forward, so you're leaning on your head, not too far back, so you're leaning into your knees. The Goldilocks spot, the middle way. So you can make the twist a little deeper by pressing the hand and the arm into the floor. Watching that the knees stay fairly even. The weight will shift to help the twist, but we don't care that much about that. Just keep the knees even into the mat. And of course, you can add all the bells and whistles by lifting the left arm, maybe lifting the left leg. You can give yourself a quad stretch here. Play with it. Where do you need to move today? And if you're not sure, it's a great place to start. We've all been there. We're going to take just a couple more breaths on whatever variation of this twist that you've chosen. And then let's release it, making our way back to our all fours. All right. So same idea on the second side here. We'll take that left hand. And whether you stay on the elbow or you drop down to the shoulder, listen to your body. Maybe you give it go one place and you decide that isn't what you need and you change to the rest. Adding all the bells and whistles, fancy balance, or wherever you're going with it. Just a couple more breaths over on this side. And then releasing what you have here. Make your way back to all fours again. So from our tabletop, we're going to extend the right leg straight back. Heel in line with the hip. So we don't want to hike it up. Just level to the floor. If and when you're ready, go ahead and stretch the left arm forward. And just like with our standing pose earlier, if you focus on the floor, it'll make the balance a little easier. If you close your eyes, it will make it a little more challenging. Let's release that. And then switch. Left leg and right arm when you're ready. Take your time with it. Releasing that to the floor. Moving back to the first side, go ahead and extend your right leg and left arm. And we're going to work with breath here. So making it a little bit challenging sometimes on an exhale. Squeeze the elbow and knee together underneath. Bring them tight. And then inhale, extend back out. Exhale the arm over to the left and the leg around to the right. And then inhale back to center. So exhale together in the middle. Inhale, extend. Exhale to the sides. Inhale, center. So take a couple more flows like that. With your breath. Nice and slow and controlled. When you're through, release hands and knees. All right, so the same idea on the second side here, extending left leg and right arm. And when you're ready, follow your breath. Elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. to the sides, and then back to center. Once more. And when you're through, just release back to hands and knees. One more on our hands and knees here. So we're going to extend the right leg back again. But instead of lifting the left hand, lean to the left just enough and see if you can lift the right hand. Bending the right knee, maybe the right hand can find the right foot. And then you can lift the toes, kick the foot into the hand a little bit, maybe drop your right hip level with your left. Again, just kind of playing with it. Finding the balance is usually the biggest challenge, usually. Releasing what you got. Make your way back to all fours, and then we'll do the second side. So extend left. Lean just enough to pick the hand up. Find the foot if you can find the foot. And then stretching the quad, squaring the hips, all the fancy stuff on this side. Releasing what we have over here, back into that all fours. And then just go ahead and step back into a child's pose, taking the hips back, maybe opening your knees, taking your hands back by the heels if that feels right, propping the head, whatever you need. We'll extend the arms long, still shoulder width apart, roughly. Right, four corners of the hands, even on the mat. And we're going to lift ourselves up into down dog. And as with everything, just allow yourself to kind of make your way into it. So by cycling your heels, shifting through the shoulders, the hips, whatever it is you need to do to make the body happy here. Try not to walk your feet closer to your hands, right? If you need to have your knees a little bit bent in this pose, that's fine. If maybe the chest doesn't come all the way back to the thighs, because this is that half fold. See it? Feel it? In other words. So just giving yourself a little grace if it doesn't look perfect. And then allow yourself to just sort of settle into whatever your down dog is. Nice big breaths here. Shifting forward into a plank, inhale. Exhale, take yourself back to down dog. So in and out like that. And if you need variation, maybe you've done a couple of these and you need the knees on the floor, from kneeling plank to child's pose works. It's the same idea, just a little less work. The next time you're in plank, go ahead and hold that. And we're just holding plank, nothing fancy. Check in that you feel that the body is in this nice long line, right? Pressing through the heels, head in line with the spine. We don't want to sag, right? We don't want the hips to be all saggy or the bone to stick up in the air, right? Find the middle, using the abdominals. And then we're gonna go ahead and drop on down to the onto the floor, right? Elbows stick to the sides as you come on down. And if your hands landed up by your shoulders, just draw them back alongside of the ribs here. Remember, that's a pretty big angle angle in the wrist. So if they have to be forward a little bit, they do. Hug the elbows in to keep the shoulders back. Tuck the tailbone and keep your toes on the floor. And then roll with your breath here. Inhaling, pull the shoulders up by your ears. Squeeze them together on your back. Draw them down toward the hip bones. And then exhale, release that. So connected to the breath here. Lifting and releasing. Once more like that. And then just come down and release. Resting for a quick little second. And then we'll take that and add on to it maybe. Remember, if it's not happening today, don't worry about it. So we do the same thing. We roll the shoulders up, curling the chest away from the floor. It can be as simple as this. And here the arms don't really work other than to keep the elbows in, right? You don't want to be leaning on your hands. If you're going a little deeper though, instead of leaning on your hands, pull like you're going to pull your belly button forward. And then you can push a little bit, but keep the pull. Feel your triceps. Lift a little higher. If you want to take it there, you can take the arms almost straight. Try not to just lock the joint. That's lazy. Right? Keeping it working. And then if you want to get super fancy, you can lift your thighs up off the floor. Watch that the shoulders stay neutral. Don't creep up by your ears. Gently release what you got. All the way back down. Holding here for a moment. And then we want to keep the body in a straight line, right? So a lot of times when we push up off the floor, we lift the upper body and then let everything else come with it. Right? We want to go up and down all at the same time. So you may not need your knees for this, but you might. So we want to keep the elbows in. We want to keep the hands square, the four corners square on the floor. Four corners of the hands square on the floor, goodness. Press into your knees and imagine drawing your belly button toward your spine. So as if you could lift it up off the floor, but it doesn't actually lift off the floor, right? So keep the abdominals engaged like that, and then lift the body a tiny bit up off the floor, and then release back down. And notice if your chest lifted first, or if your butt lift first, right? Just do that a couple of times. And if you lift it all together, typically you come down all together too, because you're only up this high, right? So that's the idea. Once you can have that in your brain, we're gonna go ahead and lift all the way up into kneeling plank. And then sit it back to child's pose. And again, here, as always, let your arms extend forward or drop back by your heels, depending on what your arms and shoulders need. Lifting back to our down dog. And then let's put that together one time. So remember, you can take your knees or not. You can lift as high into cobra or up dog as your body is ready for. But we're going to inhale slowly, move to plank. Hold here. We want to stay in this nice long line. So drop your knees if you need to drop your knees. Bend your elbows to your sides. Controlled everything to the floor together. Kind of. Move your hands if you need to move your hands. Hug your elbows in. Make your way toward cobra or up dog. Hold. And then gently back down. Everything together. If you were in up dog. Lifting up off the floor, everything together. Knees if you need knees. Back to down dog. So that was like a super slow version of a sun salute, right? Or at least the vinyasa part. Let's go ahead and walk the feet to the hands, coming to a standing fold.
Sometimes working slower is actually more challenging because then you can't just rely on momentum, right? So feet up underneath the hip bones, just like we started, toes pointing forward. Let's work with chair here. So we're gonna bring hands back to the thighs and lift the body halfway. Right? So back into that half fold kind of place. That might be more of a full fold. Belly in, lean on the legs if you need, and bend into the knees for chair. So a lot of times we like to drop the chest, because it's easier to sit here than it is here. Right? But try and keep the 90-ish degree bend in the hip. Like I said, leaning if you need to lean, hands can center or extend. Nice big breaths. And we want to be even on the four corners of the feet here for a moment. Lifting the heels, come up on your toes. So it's kind of like a balancing act, right? Stay on the toes if you can, and then inhale, stretch to the ceiling. Exhale, release your hands and your heels. Maybe that was perfect and graceful, and maybe less. So we're going to take a nice big step back with the left foot, and we're going to start all here. Don't worry about how wide. Toes point forward. Bringing the hands to the hips. Of course, you can lean on your thighs if you need that. Elbows back so the chest stays open and the shoulders stay where they belong. Come on over into that half fold again. When you're in this half fold, just kind of assess. Where are you feeling it? Do you need to change where your feet are, wider or more closer together? And listening to your body. Leave the hands on the hips if you can, and allow the upper body to move into wherever the full fold is. And then without releasing your shoulders, take your hands to the mat. You may need to bend your knees to do that. It's fine. Taking the index and middle fingers, we're going to wrap them around the big toes. Stay even on the four corners of the feet, elbows out to the sides. Maybe a gentle little pull on the toes will draw you a little deeper into the fold if you need that. Another big breath. Releasing the toes here. Take those fingers in, release behind your lower back. Pull the shoulders toward each other. And then stretch the knuckles away from the shoulders, maybe up off of your lower back. Maybe they have to stay on your back. Right? Just listening to where your body is. Find the stretch. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. Take one more nice big breath. And then release it. Instead of having your toes point forward here, go ahead and turn your toes out to the corners. So you may have to adjust your feet as we go, but you'll see, right? With the breath here, exhale, bend into your right knee. Inhale, come back to center. And then exhale over to the left. So we're going to go side to side like that. And as you bend the knee, watch that the knee stays over the ankle, right? Not collapse in. Right? If you need to change where your feet are to make that happen, do it. And you can lean on your hands as much as you want to lean on your hands here. If you'd like to get extra fancy, as you bend this left knee, you can flip the right toes up toward the ceiling. Again, just listen to your body. It will tell you loud and clear if you're listening. We're gonna go once more to each side. And when you're back to center, turn the toes forward again. Taking the hands back to the thighs or up on your hips. Inhale, come back into that half fold and hold it. Belly in, shoulders back. Hinging all the way up. And then releasing the arms. So now that we're in this straddle, instead of having your toes forward here, go ahead and turn them out to the sides. Same idea, you may need to move your feet wider or further apart. You may need to turn your toes forward or not. Bending into the knees, check and see if you can see your toes. Right? So this is where you might need to take your feet someplace else. Right? Once you have that, we're gonna take the legs straight, open the arms for kind of like an X, making the body kind of like an X. Here, exhale, bend into elbows and knees, keeping the upper body upright. Inhale, come on up again. So it seems super simple, right? Just bending elbows and knees, inhaling back up. But you can make it harder if you imagine pushing weight back up and pulling it down. Okay? Making it more or less challenging. Moving nice and smooth. And then holding with the knees and elbows bent. So you can absolutely 100% stay here. You can take the arms open to the sides, if you like. Come back into that half fold here. Holding in the middle. If you need to support on your knees or your thighs, definitely do that. If you need to be upright, go there. Right, take one more breath wherever you are. And then inhale to hinge back up. All the way to the ceiling. And release it all. We're going to stay in this straddle for just a quick little second. Go ahead and turn your toes forward again. This time here, turn your right toes toward the top of your mat and your left toes in just a little. Right? Or a lot if you need more, less of a stretch in your hip. Bending into the right knee, like for your big toe. So you're stacking your knee and ankle. And this is where you're going to feel that. So if your knee is falling inside, your toes need to come forward a little more, your back toes. Right? Otherwise, it can stay more open. Finding where we're at, right? Extending the arms for warrior two. Feeling even in your feet. Big full breaths. Take your right leg straight. Reach forward over the toes and hinge over into triangle. Lean on the leg if you feel like you need to lean, but only if you need to lean. And imagine yourself between two panes of glass. So if you let your butt stick out behind you, you break glass. Bending back into the knee, but keeping the upper body where it is. Rest your right arm on your thigh. Again, as much or as little as you need. And if you don't really need to lean, you can maybe just let that arm dangle. Someday, maybe, the hips might be low enough to touch the floor. But again, we don't want to break the glass behind us just to get your fingers to the floor. Another big breath. Release it over into a lunge and come up on the back toes. So you can stay in a really wide stance
You can drop the left knee to the floor, or you can have your left foot in if you're more comfortable with that. See about taking the right leg straight. And then feel the hips square. So push the right hip back and let the left hip come around. Keeping the shoulders back. If you want to get fancy, leave the left hand where it is and take the right arm and stretch it up toward the ceiling. Take your time. Balance can be tricky here. Keep the hips square. And then release the twist. We're going to take the hands, walk them around into the center of the straddle. Hands to the hips or on the thighs if you need, of course. Coming halfway up. And then all the way up. And we'll switch to the second side. So the right toes pull in a little bit, the left toes point toward the back of the mat, or the top of the mat, if that's how we're looking at it. And we're working toward warrior two here. So again, just looking at your feet, making sure they're where they're supposed to be, and extending the arms. If warrior two is boring and you've been here a million times and you could hold this for 6 centuries, imagine pressing down into the feet like we do in our standing pose and pulling the legs toward each other. That'll make the muscles work a little harder if you need the challenge. We're going to take the left leg straight, reach forward of the toes, hinging into our triangle. Bending the knee, rest the forearm on the thigh as much or as little as you need. And then release it all over into your lunge again. Decide if you need to change where your feet are. And when you're ready for it, take the left leg straight. Remember, you can prop or modify. Get right for you. When you're ready for it, take the left arm toward the ceiling, rotating around into this twist. Releasing the twist. Come on back to the straddle. One more time, hands up to the thighs or the waist, hips. Inhaling as we come up. And we'll step to the top of the mat. All right. So we're going to work our balance, of course, next, right? If you need to be near a wall, just for comfort, or off your mat, on your mat, whatever makes you happy. We're going to take all the weight over into the left foot and just lift the right knee. This is balancing. Doesn't have to get any fancier than this, right? So maybe you take your hands and they hang onto the back of your thigh and you can lift the leg a little higher. So standing up nice and tall, keep your chest lifted. Don't crunch over, maybe that's a better word. Can you take your hands to the front of your shin and pull the leg in? And then if you want to get really fancy, you can either grab for your big toe or you can grab the foot and extend the leg straight. But remember, the left knee likes to bend, the chest likes to drop forward, but this ain't it. Standing up tall. Shoulders back. Big breaths wherever you are. Gently release what you got. And then move to the second side. So that's why we take things in steps. And once you're set here, okay, I got this, can I add on? Sometimes the answer is no, right? But if you try to just do the full pose, you miss all the stuff in the middle and the signs that your body's giving you sometimes. And it might not always be the best place. So weight right, lifting the left, finding your balance here. Adding on the fancy stuff, if you can add on the fancy stuff. You got one more breath. Releasing. Back to the mat if you did step away. Inhale, stretch your arms up. Exhaling over into a fold. And just allow yourself to hang here. So maybe a little bend in the knees, grabbing your opposite elbow, let your head hang. Just kind of resting in this pose. And I know sometimes that sounds funny, but it really is restful. Or it can be anyhow. Take yourself back into down dog. And dropping down into child's pose. Hands back by your heels or extended out front. I forgot to look what time it was. And then come to sit up on your heels. So this may not be super comfortable. And if it's absolutely not for you, skip it entirely. But you can always set a block between your feet, and then the bum can sit on the block rather than aiming for the floor. But we're all somewhere a little different. And if you need to modify, please do. So from here, we're just stretching our shoulders. So this is not essential to be here. You can totally be seated. We're going to take the left arm out with the elbow bent, fingers pointing towards the ceiling, and bring that arm in front. Right? So there's still this 90-degree bend in the elbow. Take your right arm underneath, leave it between your hand, between your arm and your face, and see if you can catch your fingers. Relax your shoulders down as much as you can. If grabbing the opposite shoulder is as good as it gets, lovely, right? Just listen to your body. Maybe you lift your elbows, maybe you adjust your hands closer to or further from your face, right? Finding where it needs to be to find that stretch across your shoulders. Nice big breaths. And release the arms. Maybe roll them around a little bit. Take the right arm out, and then do the same thing. Bring that in front, left arm under, between, maybe the fingers touch, maybe they don't quite. You can always just grab opposite shoulder, and then you decide what to do from there. Try to keep your shoulders down. Adjusting until you feel the stretch. And you might feel this in several places, so you just work accordingly. We'll go ahead and release it. Move the arms around a little bit, and then we're just going to come over to seated. Stretching the legs out long. Feet flexed, toes pointed at the ceiling. Make sure you feel upright on your pelvis. And then inhale, stretch the arms up. Exhaling forward into the fold. Keeping the spine nice and long. Imagine leaning toward your toes with your chest. Take another big breath. Inhaling to lift back up. And release. Let's bring the soles of the feet together. And we will go back in a second, so just make sure you have space back there. So soles of the feet together. Heels toward the groin as much as they can go. And then elbows into the inner hips. Right? So you can absolutely kind of encourage your hip to open, but you don't want to press the knees to the floor. That doesn't really do anything for you. So sitting up nice and tall, letting the knees just relax where they are, or using your elbows. Pull against the ankles and imagine drawing your belly button to your heels. One more big breath. Inhaling, come back up. Keep hanging onto your ankles. Keep the chest lifted and lean back enough to balance lifting your feet up off the floor. And for a second here, let your legs be really heavy. So make your arms do all the work. Across your arms and shoulders. It just gives you this really nice stretch. Opens in the neck, across the shoulders. Maybe you're feeling a little bit in your back or chest. Re-engage your belly. Make your belly do the work. And then C curve through the spine. Nice and controlled. Roll on down to the mat. Keep the soles of the feet together and let them come to the floor. Now really rest the legs. And for a little extra stretch, if you like, take your hands to the tops of your thighs here and maybe press your lower body away from your upper body. Just releases into the hip a little bit. And then release the hands, bring the knees together. Drawing the knees into the chest. And then a little something for the abdominals. We're going to bring the knees over the hips and take the shins parallel to the floor. So 90-ish degree bend in the knee, 90-ish degree bend in the hip. Hands can be wherever you want for now. With the breath, keep the 90-degree bend in the knee. Take your right heel toward the floor. Maybe just touch, don't lean. And then coming back up. Exhale, take the left heel. Inhale up. So just like that, side to side, super simple. Use your lower abs. Try to keep the knee bent so that you're using the lower belly rather than your back. We're going to do one more on each side. So that we're even, right and left. When you're back to center, hug the knees in. And give yourself a little bit of a break. So we're going to do that same idea, only we're going to add on to it a bit. So the legs are going to do exactly what they were doing before. Knees over hips, shins parallel to the floor. And you might already be feeling this, right? Arms this time are going to reach to the ceiling. We work opposite sides of the body. So as your right heel moves toward the floor, your left thumb is coming to the floor overhead. And then inhaling back to center. Exhaling the left heel and the right thumb overhead. And then back to center. So like that. And sometimes the hardest part about it is to keep the stationary body part stationary. It wants to flop around to help for some weird reason. Let's go once more on each side. When you're at the center, go ahead and hug it in. Rocking. Let's open the arms out into a T position, and you can take whatever variation of the spinal twist you want. Some knees closer to the chest, further from the chest. Shift the hips, take the legs straight, whatever makes your body happy. One more breath over on this side. And we'll come back to center. Same place on the second side. So you can adjust once you get there, but start in the same place you went on the first side. One more breath over here. And then back to the middle. Hugging the knees into the chest. You can give it a little rock again. And then squeeze the knees in good and tight. Forehead pulling to the knees. Releasing it out into a full body stretch. Releasing your stretch. Making your way to whatever Shavasana is going to look like. Check in that your body is super comfortable. And then release the muscles. Release control of your breath. Most importantly, release any random thought that wanders into your mind. Staying present and relaxed. Remember, you can always stay in Shavasana as long as you like. But if you're ready to awaken, allow the body to wiggle and stretch. Take a nice big cleansing breath and letting it go. But try and keep your eyes closed and your mind in this space. And when you're ready, slowly make your way up to seated. And sit well. Bring the palms to touch. Bowing to the light within. Namaste. Yoga is awesome. So thanks for practicing with me. Like I said, I will definitely drop a link to the YouTube channel so you can access the old stuff once they take it off of Facebook. So if you have any questions, if you're ever looking for suggestions for modifications of poses that really don't work for you, feel free to holler. If you have requests, stuff that we haven't practiced in a little while or something you want to try and accomplish, certainly let me know that as well. All right, you guys, thanks and have a great weekend. I won't see you next weekend. I'm traveling, but soon. Have a great weekend. Thanks, bye.